If your daddy heard you talking like that, he would cut your throat.
I was gonna say, bitch,
And
you
I'd be
never
happy
met your
that you
daddy. You never met your daddy.
Right. You didn't even meet your mommy. Let's be so freaking real.
Welcome to Red Wine Reads, a community of book lovers talking about our favorite and not so favorite books while pouring a glass or two of wine. I'm your host, Jenna Weston, and with me today is Sierra Marshall. Now, before we start, I should warn you that we do spoil the endings of the books we review, so if you don't like that, then please go finish the book and come right back to this episode, or find an episode where you have read the book and you want to join in on the conversation. Here's what you can expect from each and every one of our episodes. We start with a super short 60-second summary and some quick facts to get you oriented with the book we will be reading and reviewing for the day. Then we will answer the question, would you recommend this book? And we spend the majority of the episode arguing why or why not. We will end the show with final ratings out of 5 and pairings, where we pick drinks, TV shows, movies, and other books that might pair well with today's read. Now, each episode also hosts its own drinking game, so whatever your drink of choice, wine, cocktails, mocktails, coffee, water, we hope you'll sip along with us. Today we are reading The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This book is one of those books that sat on my shelf for a very long time after I had stumbled upon it in a free library. I had always known that I've wanted to read it because I knew it was Greek mythology and it was just really right up my alley. And then I had also read Madeline Miller's Circe and fell in love with that book as well, so I knew that I would like her as an author, and I just never really got the chance to read it. And then when Sierra came to me saying that she wanted to read The Song of Achilles, I could not be more excited, could not be more happy to do so. Right off the bat, it completely surprised me and took me off guard in all of the best ways, and by the end of it I was sobbing into this book, knowing that it is going to be a bookshelf staple of mine for a very long time. So without further ado, let's pull some corks and get reading. Again, this week we read The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Welcome to another episode of Red Wine Reads. How are you?
I'm good. You know.
Yeah, well, Sierra's got new headphones, she's got her makeup, she's killing it. And what are you drinking over there?
I got a little iced chai.
Ooh, yum.
ASMR for the listeners.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I just have water, but I honestly just didn't have time, was eating ramen, and then I was like, oh, gotta go. So we are reviewing The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller.
Yay. So good.
This book. Now, before we get into it, we do have a drinking game. We can come up with some more rules as we're talking. But mine was take a drink anytime we talk about how big of a twat Achilles was during the war. Because he was a bit dramatic, if we're being honest. But yeah, do you have any other things that you feel like was brought up a lot?
I think when we talk about other, like, not just like Achilles, but other Greek mythology characters.
Oh, that's gonna happen a lot here.
Yeah, that's what I'm like, maybe that one.
Yes, okay, anytime we just start bringing up another Greek mythology story, take a drink. Okay, I love it. Well, some quick facts before we get started. So this book was ancient, published in 2011. One of our classics. But it has a 4.3. Has a 4.3 out of 5 on Goodreads. Has a 4.37 out of 5 on the Storygraph. So very highly rated, very loved amongst the book community. This one was Miller's first book. She then went on to write Circe, which is now being adapted for a series with HBO Max, which I'm really excited about because I got introduced to Madeline Miller through Circe. So anyways, and then this book was nominated for hold your horses because there's a lot. Stonewall Book Award nominee for literature for 2013, 2012's Orange Prize for fiction, 2013's Galactic Spectrum Award for best novel, 2013's Chautauqua Prize nominee, and in 2020 it was Lovely Books Le Surprise nominee for romance. So
wow,
highly acclaimed. A lot of people love it, and I actually found it in a free library like 2 years ago, and it's just been sitting on my shelf, and I'm like, gosh, I really want to read this. And then when you had brought it up, I was like, amazing.
Yeah.
And actually Ella wanted to read it too, and so you both had said it for like the lineup, and I was like, how weird is that? Out of all of
we
the
should have
books,
just had her do it with us.
we should have. Damn it. Anyways,
Next time, we can like maybe we'll do something and we can all get together and talk about it. That would be fun.
Yeah, I love it. But anyways, so it feels like it's been on the front of the mind for a lot of people. I think like you just see it and you know that cover.
Yeah.
But anyways, and then Madeline Miller, she, like a background going into this book, so she got really interested in the Legend of Achilles after her mom read the Iliad to her. Mm-hmm. And so she found that she was like really intrigued by
Patroclus.
I'm like,
and Achilles.
Yes. And like who was a very minor character in the story, mm-hmm. but had a very significant outcome in the Trojan War. So she was like, what if? And then kind of just ran with this lovely gay romance idea. And we love her for it. The Song of Achilles. So, Sierra, yes. Would you recommend it? Yes or no?
Oh, 100%. If you want to break your heart.
Yeah.
If you want to die at the end, sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Your heart is just wrecked. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's for those who like pain.
Mm-hmm. The good kind of pain.
The good kind of pain that you want, but then you're like, but why? So yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I also said yes. I feel like this is like my sweet spot of Greek mythology, a little romance,
mm-hmm.
and just a epic story.
Good dose of fantasy.
Good dose of fantasy. Oh, it's so good.
So good.
Okay. Well, let's get into it. Why? What makes this so good? What did you love about this book?
Let's see. What didn't I love? I love that it's, I mean, nowadays, like, I guess it's not, like, so unfounded that, like, we have a story that's following two male characters, because we have a lot of, like, gay romance books, mm-hmm. but I think this gives, like, a greater depth, and also the fact that it took place so long ago, which I know, like, people have been gay since the beginning of time, but it's just, like, so lovely, because it's not something that I normally read, mm-hmm. but I've known somewhat about the story of Achilles and Patroclus before this, and so, like, from other authors, funny enough, who have the same idea, but obviously they're lovers.
Yeah.
And, like, reading this, you can't help but, like, say, of course, that's fate, that's destiny, and I think it's just a really lovely story, and it's just, it brings a new depth to these characters, I think, mm-hmm. that we haven't seen. If you have ever read the Iliad or different versions of kind of like this story.
Yeah. I think like going into it, I didn't read the back, and I kind of just like assumed it was going to be this like epic hero story of Achilles and how he came to be and all like, just like kind of his story.
Right.
And when I started reading and it started with Patroclus and I was like, huh. And then, as soon as he like described his first interaction with Achilles, like mm-hmm. in the dining room, I was like, oh.
Listen, when he first saw him at the very beginning of the book and he was like, oh, his hair shined like gold. And I was just like, oh, damn, he got it bad. And I'm like, this guy's a kid. Like, but still I'm like, but when you know, you know, you know?
I know. And it was just like this lovely, I don't know. And then the way that Achilles was described too, like for some reason I thought like, I don't know why in my head, but like reading all of a lot of my other mythologies and getting really into Greek mythology of like, I thought he was going to be this kind of scrappy guy, kind of like fighting his way up to the top. And I was like, oh no, he's just this like very languid
Hashtag
prince.
blessed.
Yeah.
He's just blessed with the ability to just be an amazing soldier.
Yeah, he's like, I get like one fighting lesson a week because like I'm gonna be the world's greatest warrior ever. So yeah, and I was like, oh, that's
Period.
how we're doing it. Okay. But I think she just builds these characters in such a lovely way, and like having it be from Patroclus's point of view, it just led to this depth of seeing this like great character that you know from Greek mythology. Like Achilles is like one of the most well-known stories that you know, that you've been told from this mythology. And then you have it be told in such a different way, and this rise and fall, and kind of give like the reason for the rise, and actually like having his battle background be the worst attribute about him, when you're being told that that's like what he should be known for, as being the greatest warrior that ever lived. And it's so fascinating. And then to see the fall, and actually having all of these kills and all of these like grand battles be attributed to just heartbreak, it was like boom. Right in the feelings. Oh, so good. So
yeah, I think like to kind of bounce off of that, like the fact that we do get this from Patroclus's like point of view, I think that was really beautiful too. It's like, it's called the Song of Achilles, but this book really is about like how Patroclus sees Achilles and like how he grows with him and how they form this bond together. And I think we see like not just character development with like Achilles, but we also see it with Patroclus and like how he grows from this very frightened sort of boy to like at the end of the book he is like giving his all. Like he is the qualities that he found so endearing, I think, in Achilles, he ended up with those same qualities. And I almost would say in a little bit they kind of switched characteristics.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was almost as if like Achilles or Patroclus gained this confidence in himself and gained this like sureness in who he is and what he and who he loves and how he goes about his decisions. And then Achilles kind of grabbed on to like what others think and is just doing things because he's supposed to do it.
Right.
And kind of that's totally it. They totally swap at the beginning and end, and only Patroclus can kind of really pull Achilles out of that
and
feeling.
even still
And then
even still he doesn't like 100% do that. I mean, towards the end we see that like it took him like dying for Achilles to actually get over his pride.
Yeah.
And say like, and it wasn't, again, he wasn't fighting for the men. He was fighting for revenge, which is sad, but you know, he did it for love.
I know. So even though it is like very much the love story between Achilles and Patroclus, like Briseis brings this very interesting dynamic of kind of offering Patroclus this idea of having a quote unquote normal marriage with kids and with love, and she's also like
future.
Yeah, a future where she's like, you don't even have to, like, you and Achilles can do your thing.
Carry on.
Yeah. And like all I ask is like, you love me and you create a family with me and like give us kids and like this is it. And I just think the introduction of this very fluid version of love is something that's so interesting at like this, like, because I feel like it was more common then.
I would agree, because I mean, you even hear like when they're talking about it that boys would take other boys as lovers,
Yeah.
But then once they grew into men, that's not what they did, which I don't know. Like, historically, I thought, like, throughout war and things, they still did. But again,
Yeah,
weird.
and I think a lot of that comes from, like, Patroclus's, like, POV of what he's been told and not actually what he's seeing. But it is, like, I don't know. I just thought it was, like, such an interesting aspect. And then to have Patroclus still be like, I can't do that because I know that Achilles is, again, at this point in the book, a little bit of a sassy boy and wants, like, Patroclus all to himself and, like, is a little bit possessive. Because, like, he's being pulled in a million different directions from everybody, from his mother, from his, like, general, from all these different things. And so I think their dynamic, like, Patroclus and Brasileus? Bracesis? Okay.
Or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, Patroclus and Bracesis, like, he needed her during this time as much as, like, she needed him. And so their dynamic was also, like, an added layer of a very interesting dynamic between the three of them at that point.
A little bit of, like, but not obviously to that extent. Like, a little bit of a throuple, if you will.
Emotional
Polyamorous, perhaps. A little polyamorous.
Yeah.
Which, like, I think, like, it's interesting because, like, yes, I think he could clearly, like, he's even said, if Achilles weren't in the picture, would I be able to be with Bracesis? And he was like, I think yes. But, I mean, he even says, like, very close to that same time, he's like, essentially, like, we are two halves of a heart, Achilles and I. And so it's like, I think it kind of boils down to, like, one of those things where it's like, you can be so in love and so committed to a person, and yet, like, in that moment, obviously he wasn't getting everything he needed from Achilles. And so, like, he clearly turned to another, like, connection. And I do think it was, like, somewhat romantic. Like, he clearly cared for her very much and was, like, so angry when Achilles decided to give her up.
Pawn her
And
off.
I think that was just, that part was hard to read because it was so against the character that we had come to know in Achilles. And I think, like, it was even baffling for Patroclus. He was like, that is not the man I'm in love with. Like, that is pride. And for him to, like, quote, like, essentially betray Achilles in a form,
Yeah.
I think that took a lot, but it also was, I think it was all those things that he had learned from Achilles, like honor and to, like, stand up for what's right. And I think Achilles had always done that in the past. And so it was just so out of the norm. And I think Patroclus took those characteristics and he was like, you're in the wrong this time. And I'm holding you accountable, which I think is really lovely. And I think it's so important in any relationship to kind of have those people who do keep you accountable and say, like, this is out of character for you. Like, this is not the you I've known. And honestly, you know it's wrong and I know it's wrong. And so I'm calling you out and I'm going to do my best to change, like, what you've done.
And then to have it unfold in such a way where Achilles is taking a step back from the fighting, so much so that they're spending years, like, added years to this war that they should not, be there for. And then to have such an obvious chance to win with Achilles and to have him just be like a bratty drink. Like, because he's probably, honestly, like, in his early 20s at this point.
Yeah.
And just being, like, very prideful, like you said, like, holding on to this vendetta that he has. And I think almost to be a point of, like, with Patroclus, to be like, see, I was right.
Right.
And that ended up causing Patroclus's death. like in the end. And
Right.
to have like Patroclus be like, fine, I'm going to take it into my own hands then, because I know I'm in the right. Like, I know that
Right.
you were supposed to step in and your pride is holding you back. So I'm just going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see that almost desperation from Achilles as Patroclus is getting ready to fight, and like he's putting on the armor, and I was just like, oh.
But also, like, what a champ. He went out there and he
Crushed it.
he did crush it.
Literally.
Like, he did such a good job, and I was so surprised, because I was like, this to me is like, and you know, like, we're talking about the book here, like, to me it was like the gods are like guiding him to an extent. Obviously we had to have these events happen, Hector killing Patroclus, so that we would have that infamous scene of Achilles dying, and like all that leading up to it. I also think it was poetically beautiful that they killed Patroclus first. And honestly, how fitting, because I mean, time and time again you hear Patroclus saying like, if Achilles is not in the world, like, I don't want to be in the world.
Yeah.
And I know, like, I think we all knew that Achilles had the same sentiment.
Yeah.
But I don't really think that's like really actualized, because we don't get his POV, you know?
Yeah, and I think you also have that idea of like Achilles is so confident and so at home in the fact that he will die first.
Yeah.
Like he's like, there's no way Patroclus would die before me.
Right.
So like there's that kind of knowing, that kind of like, okay, like I'm okay with that. I want that.
Well, and the fact that like, and it's so funny that we didn't like, at least I didn't see it coming, even though his mother was like, you will die soon. She's like, essentially, don't worry, you're gonna die soon. And I think it's so funny that Patroclus, like, this whole time was thinking, oh yeah, no, I will die. If Achilles is dead, I'm dead. Right?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to be in the world without Achilles. So obviously that's an obvious choice. And so I think it's really interesting that the author decided, was like, although like, I don't know in actuality completely this, like, the Greek mythology obviously of these two, but you know, it's kind of, it's beautiful, because it just shows how deeply loved, and I don't just think from Achilles, from like many other, how loved he was.
Yeah, and there's something about, and this is like, I don't know why, but this is one of my favorite tropes, is in like when a character and a main character, usually in like a hero type story, loses that very important person and then goes absolute ape shit.
Hell breaks loose. Yeah.
I love it, because I'm like, it hits so deep of just like, yeah.
It's the touch them and you die, but like times 1,000, because they did die. And then it's like, you killed them, so I'm going to murder you all.
Yes. Yes.
But I think really he was only worried about Henry was his name. What was
Hector.
his name? Hector. I'm so bad at this.
Henri.
Henri. I think that's so funny that like once he killed Hector, he was like, I don't have to live anymore.
No.
I mean, and like you saw that. Like he only lived long enough to kill Hector, and then he was like, I'm so out. I'm so out. He's like, I do not care.
Well, and then to be a warrior in the way that he can't die. Like,
right.
He's just gonna keep fighting and fighting and fighting, and like, not until he gets an arrow shot straight into his.
Which I thought that was so interesting, because the myth of Achilles
heel, right?
Yes. So I thought that was interesting, but I think it's like, and maybe it was metaphorical, you know, and perhaps it had nothing to do with his Achilles at all. Like, maybe in real life it did, but in this story, for the story's sake, like, he was shot through the heart. Like, his heart was just ended. And I want to say, like, metaphorical. Like, his heart was just shot with an arrow and just absolutely blown to bits, and perhaps he didn't even realize it was his Achilles tendon. Who knows?
Yeah.
And, maybe it wasn't. And I think it was interesting that, like, Apollo showed up. Fuck him. Hate him. And he was like, he's just a human. But that's, like, so against, like, the myth that we hear, which is that his mother dipped him in a bath or the river or something. And, like, every part of him but his Achilles heel. And then, he would be protected. So he'd be this divine creature. And I was kind of disappointed at that part. Because I was like, but now that I think about it, I'm like, it's a metaphor, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that you talked through, because that was actually going to be one of my
your icks.
Not my icks, but like my question. I was just like, I thought it's Achilles, so where the hell is like the knife through the Achilles heel kind of thing? But I do think it is very poetic in the way that she killed him, and very like cinematic almost. Of like just boom.
It's like you thought you knew, you didn't.
Nope. But yeah, I
think if you made it into a movie, it would be interesting for you to see like someone slash his Achilles tendon, but for him to feel like, or shoot an arrow at it or something, like just nick the right point, but for him to like feel it through his heart, like I would die.
Be so good. Yeah. I do want to talk about his mother, Achilles' mother.
Ugh. I hate her.
Because this gal, this nymph, is kind of the worst.
She's the worst. She's absolutely the worst.
Because she's like literally training her son to be killed. And then it's like, you can't have any distractions, but like to the extent.
Right. Well, I just also think I'm like, without Patroclus, first of all, she hates him.
Yes.
And I hate that. And she's just like, without Patroclus, like, Achilles would not have lived this long. He probably would have run off to battle and met with Hector, like, first thing. And, probably would have died immediately. Where this is not his heroic story of him, And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
But I also think, like, all the things she did to, like, quote-unquote hide him, I mean, obviously she did, like, kind of extend that a little bit because she did put him on that island and she dressed him up like a girl and made him get married and get a girl pregnant and that whole thing.
Which is just a little thing.
Just a little.
I did love that, like, scene of just Achilles, like, just being the most beautiful girl on the floor.
Slay.
Like, yes.
I'd love to see that because I've seen this, like, there's this painting of this where Odysseus, take a drink, shows up to the island and sees Achilles just like a woman. And, like, they do make him look like a woman, but he's the only one who's, like, swift with a sword or something like that.
Yeah.
And, like, it's his famous painting. So kind of, like, seeing that play out in, like, this, where, like, it still did somewhat happen like that, where he's, like, Odysseus, like, rung that horn or whatever, or the, I don't know, bell or horn or something like that.
Yeah.
Essentially, like, marking that there was a war or something. I don't know. Some kind of battle or something coming.
Yeah.
Danger. And just seeing him, like, I'm not afraid. Like, only girl not, like, afraid to fight.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it. Yeah. I also think, like, the Odysseus, why did I almost want to say Ulysses? The Odysseus aspect of this was really interesting too, to get, because like Odysseus is 9 times out of 10 going to be your main character in any other Greek mythology story. Take a drink. But
you hear his name. You know his name. He is the Iliad. Like
he is the guy. And so to have him be like a side character, and to be this character that you like, you kind of love, you kind of hate.
Kind of hate him, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, why aren't you doing more? I know who you are. I know what you can do. Like, what? Like, dude, come on. but then to have him play like this pivotal role at the very end, to be fighting for Achilles and Patroclus to be buried together, and to like really like kind of stake his claim in this and be like,
He didn't do a good job.
well, no, he did not fight nearly as hard as he should have. But
Well, he was like, I want it noted that I tried. And I was just like, and I don't even get me started on Achilles' son. Like, I murder that boy. He is ungrateful. He is horrible to say, oh, well. Like, hear all these men talk about Patroclus with such great esteem, and for him to be like, he's a slave. He sucks. He's the worst. He doesn't deserve this. And they're like, I mean, he did kill, like, this, he did kill Zeus's son. So, no, he's not enough. He brings shame to my father's name.
ugh. I'm like,
Girl,
bitch,
if your daddy heard you talking like that, he would cut your throat.
I was gonna say, bitch,
And
you
I'd be
never
happy
met your
that he
daddy. You never met your daddy.
Right. You didn't even meet your mommy. Let's be so freaking real.
Yeah, and if that is how a son raised by this creepy little nymph is, like, get out of here.
I think that part of the book, obviously, like, there were other parts that just, I was gut-wrenched. But this part of the book specifically, like, this is when I started crying. Because it wasn't even, like, obviously, Achilles, like, holding Patroclus and, like, continuously, like, shouting his name after he passed away, and then, like, keeping his body in his room. I was just, like, the deep sorrow. Like, it killed me. But then I think, like, the biggest part for me was, like, Achilles wanted so badly for them to be together in the afterlife, and for everyone to keep going against his wishes and to, like, just keep holding them back from being together was sickening and gut-wrenching and just kept eating me up. And I think what a beautiful end, even though it was also terrible, what a beautiful end for his mother to finally essentially, like, see his value and to essentially, like, be like, oh, you did love my son. And I think that's all she loved her son so much, and him, like, sharing his ghost for her. I'm gonna say he's like a ghost.
Yeah.
Just, like, sharing those thoughts, those memories with her, and just, they both loved him so dearly. They saw him as, like, this beautiful being, and I think it's just so interesting that they could never get along when he was alive, but, like, in his death, they finally got along because they felt that deep sorrow for his death.
Yeah. Yeah, I did I did think that the end was so interesting and, like, heartbreaking, and I do think his son is the worst ever. There was a part of me that really wanted the book to end right as he's, like, Achilles is, like, shot and dead.
He's dead. Yeah.
Like, I understand the need to, like, lengthen it out and be like, Patroclus needs to, like, meet up with him in the end kind of deal.
I wish they would have done more.
Well, like, I don't know. I just felt like it, yeah, I don't know. I was like, I really wanted it to be, like, such an epic ending of, like, shot through the heart, boom.
I hate that there were, like, these black figures met together essentially in the afterworld. I'm like, nothing killed me more. I was like, that's not enough. Why would you do, like, I need a golden, beautiful boy, like, specter-like being to just envelop him in his arms and just hold him tight. And I didn't get that. Two dark figures met together and they were together forever, essentially. But it's like, that's such a fade to black BS moment. I craved more. Like, I wanted him to say something like, I was waiting for you. Something good.
Yeah.
But it was still beautiful, and I was happy, like, finally they were together after, like, and it was very confusing to me because I understand, like, Achilles was like, bury my ashes with his and then we'll be together forever. obviously they have to mark their graves, but I'm like, you could have so done this
Yourself.
before. Like, you could have let his soul be there. He would have come to you, like, no doubt.
Yeah.
Like, he probably would have fought Hades himself.
He would have. Yeah. I do think it was, like, the other heartbreaking part of that was, because you mentioned, like, him keeping, or Achilles keeping Patroclus's body in that room, but, like, the other one that, like, got me so hard was, like, Hector's dad coming to him.
No,
and
I
was
know.
like, we just need a burial. Like,
and then Achilles, like, like, Achilles was doing it for a reason. Like, he was so hurt and heartbroken that this man, so he, like, wanted, for several days to show how he had wronged him, even in death. Like, he had like, dragging his dead body around. But I think, like, there came to be, like, this much deeper understanding with the dad and with Achilles that, like, these are our loved ones. Like, I understand that he hurt you. And I think it comes back to that question that Chiron had asked them. Is one life more important than another? Mm-hmm. And I think it kind of comes down to that, like, would you choose? Like, how would you choose? And I think it comes down to that same question is, like, he was someone's son. He was someone's father. He was someone's, brother.
Yeah.
And I think Achilles was like, oh, okay, same. Like, I finally, after all this killing and terrible things that happened, he finally, like,
has the closure he needed. And
finally put two and two together.
Oh, God, that one got me, though. I was like, don't mind me just sobbing into my laundry as I'm listening to it on audio.
I literally come out and I'm like, into my family room. And my dad's like, are you crying? I was like, yeah. And then my mom was like, the book? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah,
and he's like, that's ridiculous. And I was like, my mom was like, a book's never made you cry.
Oh, there's been, I used to think that nothing can make me cry. I never cried at movies. I never cried at books. I never cried at TV shows. And then, that was wrong. I read The Art of Racing in the Rain, and then from there on, I've been able to cry a little bit easier. Last of Us episode and Nick Offerman sobbed. I'm a crier. Sobbed. So
I'm a crier. I will cry at a Disney movie. Mm-hmm. I used to watch those, like, cancer TV. This is terrible. This is a bad thing about me. But I like to be hurt, Something wrong with me mentally. But I watch, like, all these cancer movies. I watch, like, the saddest, most romantic shit that you've ever watched. I love to make myself cry that way, which is both a blessing and a curse, because I'm the type of person who gets so attached to characters, and that's kind of like what happened with this. It's like, that's why I was like earlier today when we first hopped on, I was like, I'm gonna need 5 to 10 business days. Like, I will not be over this for a while. Like, I'm so attached to these characters, and I think that happens to me all the time, and it's terrible. Don't do it. It's like drugs. They're great and they're awful.
Yeah, it's a really fun time during, and then they either get killed off or you finish the book, and then you're left in a weird hangover, or both.
An empty hole in your heart. Which happens to me quite often. Like, I'm actually, like, there are certain books that I'm still reeling from, and I mean, I've read them 3 years ago, and I'm sure you know, but I can't fill the void, and I think about them every day. Yeah. And I think that's crazy. Like, it's crazy that I literally think about certain characters in books, like, every single day of my life. Like, life-altering, life-changing. They are my friends. I know them well. And they have left a deep pit in my heart. And sometimes I have to go back and reread books because I miss them so much. Mm-hmm. And this might be one of those times where I, like, maybe I'll just pop back in.
Yeah. This is one that will stay on my shelf for a while. That I will keep close to my heart.
Well, I had the ebook, so now I have to go buy the real tangible copy and keep it with my Greek mythology section.
There you go. Well, let's get into final ratings. When I initially finished, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think I would raise it up just slightly to like a 4.25 or a 4.5 because like I do not think there's much wrong with this book. I think the ending for me felt a little drawn out after Achilles' death, but that's kind of just a personal preference. And then the war scene also felt like it was a little bit repetitive in the sense of like Achilles fights, he comes back, Achilles and Patroclus like have tension, and then they make love, they make up, and then he goes back and fights, and then it's like this, and we kind of get through that cycle a couple of times, which I understand it's a freaking long war, for me it just like slightly drawn out, but again, that is like nitpicking, but this has been on my TBR for a while, and so like I'm so happy I read it. It was truly such a beautiful story, a love story for the ages. I am obsessed. I will recommend it to everybody I know. And I laughed, I cried, I kicked my feet and squealed, in all of the best ways.
I love when books do that. I gave it a 5. A 5 out of 5. And my only qualm is there wasn't as much spice as I like. As per usual. What's new? What's new? This is just the way we live. Just because like the sexual tension was like always there between them, I missed that. I was like, it was so good at the beginning because I was like, will they, won't they? And I don't know. But yeah, on a whole, like there's not like one part of this book that I did not enjoy. Except Aries. Fuck you, Aries. No, Apollo. It was Apollo, not Aries. So sorry, Aries. Just kidding. Fuck you, Apollo. And I already had these thoughts before. I know his Greek mythology legends and such. I know the shit he's done. He's horrible. Anyway, there's just so much that I loved about this. And it's just a whole new perspective on a myth that I somewhat already knew. And I don't know, I can't complain about it that much. Like that's the only thing. I think it was beautifully written. And I want to keep playing it over and over again. Like their love is just so cosmic. Yeah. I think. It was just so beautiful.
Love it. Well, let's end with pairings. So we will pick TV shows, books, movies, and drinks that might pair with today's book. As Sierra's gonna think of it on the spot today.
Yes, I am.
Well, here I'll start, and then maybe it'll spark. So drink. I either said a big goblet of wine, because I feel like if you're reading Greek mythology, like everybody's drinking wine all the freaking time. Right. Or I was thinking, I don't know what cocktail this would be, but something like a nectar of the gods. So something golden, sweet, like a little bit honey-esque. So like a honey cocktail. I don't know what that'd be, but like a nectar of the gods type vibe.
I would say like, a honey ambrosia is what they called it.
Yeah.
That's what I think they called it. I don't know if that's the same thing or not, but yeah, a little bit of a honey-esque. Yeah. Something a little sweet. Something a little, I don't know, bitter.
Yeah.
That's like about the same as this. I would say some kind of honey wine or something like that.
Oh, yeah, like a mead.
Yeah, ooh. Yes, a mead. Seems right.
Seems fitting.
Or something with figs.
Oh.
Like a fig cocktail or something.
Yeah.
Achilles would love his figs.
TV show. I did Queen Charlotte. Okay. I think it was a little bit more vibey, because with Queen Charlotte, she does lose her husband in a way, in the sense of she loses him to a mental disorder that causes him to kind of have these episodes.
Oh, yeah.
And so she kind of like watches the rise and fall of her husband and is like committed to being by his side through life and through a sort of death of him recognizing her and going through all these different things, and so kind of having that almost doomed love story in a way where you want it so badly to be this beautiful happy thing, and it's not, but they still make the most of what they have. So yeah, I also sobbed during that show.
I'm gonna say Chaos, which is that it's like I don't think it's getting I don't think it's getting another season.
No, it got canceled,
which is bull. Because I like, from what I've watched. Also, I love Jeff Goldblum, but such a funny show, and I think kind of shows like the cruelty of gods like back then, and I think even this book did a really good job of that, like showing freaking Apollo out there just like practically kicking him off the stone wall just so he'll get killed, and then on top of that being like, he's just a man, shoot him. Hate him. Also don't like his mother, so I think Chaos would be a good one.
Good. Book, this is kind of, I hinted to it earlier, but Circe by Madeline Miller, her second book. I actually listened to Circe as I was I was in a real big running phase during 2020, as everybody was. And so,
not me.
Just to get out of the house. But it was a very long epic book. But again, it's a retelling of a Greek myth that you think you know, and then she kind of adds her little flavor to it, and it was so good. And I actually do want to like go back and reread it now, because it's been a while, and I feel like I just remember having like reading it and being like, holy shit, that was really cool. Like that was very different than what I was expecting, which is exactly how I felt with this book.
I could give a laundry list. I have like so many Greek mythology books in my library, retellings or what have you. Stone Blind is one, follows the story of Medusa, and then I have A Touch of Darkness, which is following the story of Hades and Persephone, but modern, and she's like in college, and it's hot and smutty. And then I had one more, but now I'm like blanking. I'm drawing a blank on what. Lore Olympus, which is a like a graphic novel. It's both been published and it is on Webtoons. And it's so good. And again, that's a Hades and Persephone one, but super fun.
Lastly, a movie. Because it was fresh, did Gladiator 2.
Yeah. Have not seen it yet. Still.
It's exactly what you expect. A lot of fighting, a lot of Paul Mescal being himself.
Hot.
Love.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. A lot
and
of...
Pedro, too.
I was going to say a lot of Pedro Pascal upper thigh, which I'm all about.
Delicious.
And, but yes, I think the like kings, the two young kings remind me a lot of Achilles' son. Just the worst, and like being very violent for violence sake, and a lot of like the kings in that time. And I think like the kind of forbidden love of it all, and the trying to kind of live up to this expectation that has been following you. But yeah, and also just a bunch of men fighting.
Yeah, hot. I think just with the Greek mythology of it all, I'm gonna go with the Percy Jackson movies.
So
there weren't
bad.
as many as we'd love, but
They were so bad.
okay, but also hot, so I don't care. Don't care. Also, you could do like Helen of Troy. is another good one. Old Fashioned, that's a really old movie, but tells the story in which we're already telling. Freaking Helen.
She's just too hot for her own good. Okay, so next up, we will be reading Long Live Evil by Sarah Rees Brennan. This is a book that is on Sierra's sister's shelf and on my shelf. So we're gonna give it a go. Here's the quick little summary. When her whole life collapsed, Ray still had books. Dying, she seizes a second chance at living, a magical bargain that lets her enter the world of her favorite fantasy series. Ooh. She wakes in a castle on the edge of a hellish I almost said chasm. Good job, Jenna.
Yeah.
On a hellish chasm in a kingdom on the brink of war, home to dangerous monsters, scheming courtiers, and her favorite fictional character, the once and forever Emperor. He's impossibly alluring, as only fiction can be, and in this fantasy world, she discovers she's not the heroine, but the villainess in the Emperor's tale. Ooh. So be it. The wicked are better dressed, with better one-liners, even if they're doomed to bad ends. She assembles the wildly desperate villains of the story under her evil leadership, plotting to change their fate. But as the body count rises and the Emperor's fury increases, it seems Rey and her allies may not survive to see the final page.
Okay.
I actually haven't read this summary yet, so now I'm actually really excited.
I know, it sounds good.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot. I'm like, would I prefer to be the villain in a story or not? I think sometimes yes.
Maybe.
You know? Maybe. Are you asking? I'll be your villain.
Because,
okay.
Yeah.
As long as there's like an enemies to lovers trope, I'll be your villain.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm excited for what comes next. This one will hopefully not be as heartbreaking as what we just read. Cheers to next time. Long live evil. Cheers. Well, that's our show. I hope you enjoyed listening. If you liked it, please go give it 5 stars on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this right now. And if you want more book-related content, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at RW Reads Podcast. That's at RWREADSPODCAST on Instagram and TikTok. This podcast was produced by JB Media and edited by Jenna Weston. We will see you in the next episode. Happy reading!